implementing across a multi-site for the clinical side of implementation. And the presenters today are from Northern California, Presbyterian Homes and Services. And I had the privilege of being a primary implementer with them. And so we worked together for almost 2 years, I think, from the very, very planning stage through the last implementation of physician orders at their sites. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. And I think you'll find it very interesting, and they were really, really successful. They did a great job.
Thank you, Sherri. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jill Dicus. I'm the Director of Nursing at Sequoia San Francisco. Today, as Sherri mentioned, we will be talking about some lessons that we learned from our implementation of the clinical and physician order modules of AOD. Just to get a feel for the room, how many of you have yet to implement one or both of these modules at your own site? Okay, good. All right. So we're hopeful that you'll take away some tips. We will be talking a little bit about Go Live and beyond. So for the rest of you in the room who are in that category, hopefully you also gain some good information you can take back with you. So as I said, my name is Jill Dicus. I'm the Director of Nursing at Sequoia San Francisco. We are a high-rise community in the heart of San Francisco, in Japantown. If you're over there, stop by and say hello. We serve over 350 residents across 4 levels of care. We have a 50-bed skilled nursing, we have assisted living, memory care, and independent living.
Hi, my name is Heidi Rieser. I'm the Director of Staff Development at the Tamalpais. We're part of NCPHS as well. And we're located in beautiful Marin County. There's Mount Clearance, one of the views from our facility, our site. And we're about 20 minutes north of Golden Gate Bridge. So it's a wonderful location. We have well over 200 independent living residents. We're licensed for 52 beds in our skilled facility. We have 20 residents in our assisted living and plans for memory care as well. We were the first of the 3 sites to go live. We went live with our clinical module in November of 2014, and then subsequently we rolled out physician's orders in February of 2016. 2015, correct.
That reminds me, I forgot to mention our go live dates. The clinical portion went live April 30th of 2015, and then we went live with physician orders 2 months later on June 30th of 15.
Hi, my name is Cathy O Byrne. I'm assistant panelist at NCPHS, and I help to implement the 3rd facility, the CCFC, with their physician and EMR. Portola Valley, Sequoias, is located in the Palo Alto area. It's a vast, roaming, gorgeous land, lots of properties. It's just a fantastic site. They came live on their clinical module September 1st of 2015, and then physician orders on October 10th, 2015.
And I forgot to advance the slide. Here's a picture of Portola Valley. It's beautiful. Yeah, it really is a huge campus. So we'll start off by talking about the training. Obviously, any good implementation starts with training. It doesn't end at your go live. It's an ongoing thing, as I'm sure you've all come to know. But let's talk real quick about the training that goes into your preparation. As I mentioned, we had 2 months between our clinical and our physician order go live. So we spent about a month training all of the staff leading up to both of those go live dates. When you're scheduling, Sherri put together a schedule for us of 4-hour sessions. It does provide you with a lot of flexibility doing it that way, because you can append them onto the beginning or end of a shift, or put 2 4-hour sessions together on a regularly scheduled day off. It does incur a lot of overtime, so you need to be sure to budget for that. And it can be really exhausting for everyone involved. So get creative about ways to, build morale and be pumped, and, if you're not excited about it, your staff is not going to be excited about it. So you really have to, be excited, even if you're really exhausted. If you have the time leading up to your go live to hire some additional casual staff to help you through this process, that's a great thing. But we were able, by doing the 4-hour shifts before and after regular shifts, to get by without needing a lot of additional coverage for the floor. I would encourage you to call all of your staff the day before their scheduled trainings to remind them. It's worth your time. It not only is a good reminder for them, but it serves to impress upon them, how important it is to go to these trainings. For physician order training, there are 4 sessions, and they do need to be taken in order. So if someone misses that first scheduled training, it really can throw your whole implementation schedule off. So just making sure you clearly communicate how important it is to show up. As I said, there were 4 4-hour sessions for the physician order training. Some people are going to need more than that, so you do need to prepare to offer additional remediation for some nurses, especially if they don't have a lot of experience just navigating in computers. It would be worth your time to do just some computer literacy training ahead of doing the AOD training, just to make sure that people, know how to use a mouse and click on things. It seems basic, but some of our nurses don't use a computer outside of work. So, it takes them longer to feel comfortable navigating in the system. I guess I'll hand it over to Heidi.
So for the clinical piece, we also had 8 hours for the nurses, and broken out into 4-hour sessions with Sherri. Most of our nurses had some level of experience. We had our prior system, prior to AOD, involved some computer charting for the nurses. But the CNAs were, for us anyway, in our system, 100% on paper. So it was a big adjustment for them. And though many of them had at some point either been exposed to computers in their home environment and had some level of skill, or with other facilities had some direct experience with charting into a point of care type system, many of them did not have any experience in using a computer. So in retrospect for us, we probably would have benefited from offering a very basic computer skill session, offering that, paying for the time to be there. Many of the issues we encountered were up front with the CNAs, just basic login issues, getting into the system, getting them set up, which took some of the valuable time that we had with our consultant there on site. So in retrospect for us, I think we probably would have benefited from having taken care of some of that in advance of our sessions with Sherri. In the end, the point of care system is very intuitive, for those of you that aren't yet aware or involved with it, very easy to learn. So even those that were ambivalent or nervous about using the system, didn't have very much experience, those CNAs in the end mastered it very quickly. We had 2-hour sessions for the CNAs, and they were up and running in no time. It's a very user-friendly platform, very easy to use, and so we had a lot of success with that.
I wasn't sure if you had. Oh, good. Yes.
Yeah, and for us, point of care was an easy transition. With physician's orders, if you want to move to the next slide.
I was going to talk
Do you want to talk
about this.
It would be good if we had one presenter, it's like, it's a little awkward, sorry. So for order entry, the timing of order entry is really important. For us, we did all of our order entry in the 2 weeks leading up to our go live. There can be a temptation to work ahead so that you make sure you have plenty of time to get all of the orders in. But just keep in mind that once you start putting orders into AOD, you'll need to maintain any changes to those orders on both systems. For most, it's a paper MAR plus the AOD. So you kind of create more work for yourself if you start putting in your orders too far ahead of your go live. So the order entry process is a really great time for your nurses to gain confidence and competence in entering orders. So even though it's tempting to kind of assign it to the people who you've identified in training are doing really well, you can trust that the orders they put in are going to be perfect. You should schedule everyone to be a part of it. For us, it was a minimum of 4 hours of order entry for every nurse, regardless. And then you have to establish a process of checking one another's work. So for us, that meant all of the nurse managers had to check every order that was entered for accuracy. So this 1 to 2 weeks prior to go live is a good time to do your remedial training with the nurses who need some more time to catch on, and then also putting in your orders.
So for us, physician orders, we had 12 hours of training for the licensed staff. So 8-hour sessions, broken into 4 hours apiece, and then a 4-hour review period. The initial plan for us, I know I mentioned earlier, we had a previous system that we did utilize, and all the orders for all of our residents in our facility were in that system. And the game plan was to cull that information neatly and drop it into AOD. It didn't work out that way. And at the time, we were about about 3 weeks out from our go live with physicians' orders. So to us, we looked at that and thought, the only plan B at that point is to manually input those orders one by one for every single resident. So it seemed like a very daunting task, and we weren't looking forward to it. In the end, it really served as a great training opportunity, because to put in orders, trainer hands you a sheet of pretend orders and says, okay, I trained you on AOD now, go ahead and put those in and I'll double check your work and make sure it's correct. That's one thing, but to actually take real orders on Coumadin or blood pressure meds with whole parameters and sliding scale insulins, and to put those in actual orders for actual residents, knowing that those are going to end up in the MAR and that's what the nurse is going to go by to give those medications, it's a different angle, it's a different motivation. You want to make sure that it's 100% correct. So we involved all the nurses. We reserved a room in our facility, locked it up for 2 weeks around the clock. We ended up going 3 weeks, I think. And we made it fun. One regret I have is I wish we'd taken pictures, because, we ordered in pizza, we played music, no hula dancing or anything, but we did have a lot of fun. And you have to. And it was morale building. It really was. Everyone started to get excited about the implementation. They started to get excited about going into physicians' orders. They felt more confident in their ability to work with the system. They felt more ready as a result. We also did a total of 3 passes. So initial order set went in, and then we had a different nurse come in behind to double check the orders. And then we had a third round as well. And that helped to develop a different skill set in the nurses as well, in that we needed to look for and find possible errors that would result in an issue in the MAR. and then to figure out how to correct that and make it right. The other thing that we realized as we were going through the process is that there were a number of different ways we could put an order in and still have it be correct. But we really wanted to create a standardized method of putting orders in. So we just took some flip chart sheets and tacked them up on the room. In the end, we ended up with maybe 8 flip chart sheets. And that actually became our standard. So for instance, bed pad alarms. If we put a bed pad alarm order in, we also, along with that, needed in order to check that alarm cue shift to make sure that it was operating. We also needed another order to make sure that it was, the batteries were changed twice a year, which is per our protocol. So if somebody had to put a bed pad alarm order in, there were a couple of orders that also needed to go in with that. Or a hypnotic order that went in, or even like a melatonin or something. Then we needed a sleep monitor. And the system doesn't prompt you for that. So we needed a standard to make sure that we were all putting orders in the same way. And it's still something that we use today. And actually, we have, if anyone's interested in having a copy of that, we'd be happy to email it if we don't have it here. Oh, okay.
You might have to get up. Sure.
All right, thank you, Heidi. Yeah, so that's a good point. We thought about doing some handouts, and then it started to grow, and it was about 10 pages. And being from California, we wanted to save paper. And if you are interested, we have a little sign-up sheet up here. You can give us your email address, and we will email you some handouts from the presentation. Okay. So we took this opportunity of our physician order go live to switch to a liberalized medication pass schedule. For those of you who have never heard of this, it's something that's been around for a decade or so. It's much more commonly encountered in the Midwest than out in California where we are. But it is a person-centered approach to medication administration. It allows for a lot more individual preference, honoring the resident's preferred routine. So for instance, instead of giving all of your thyroid medications at 6:30 a.m. or 5:30, as you know, because it can be an hour before, and waking your residents to take your thyroid medication, they can be given upon rising. So for, we've all encountered the resident who prefers to sleep until 9 a.m. Wouldn't you if you were 90? So this allows the nurse to honor that preference, give the medication at 9 a.m. when the resident wakes up, and then has their breakfast at 9:30. There's really no reason to give it at 5:30 if they're not going to eat breakfast for another 4 hours. So, this allows for that without the nurse being penalized for a late administration. This was definitely something on everyone's mind as they thought about recording their MedPass in an electronic MAR that's going to timestamp, when they gave that medication. So, this was the perfect time to make the switch. As we were doing our order entry, as part of our order standard, we developed our liberal MedPass times and what was going to be given in the liberal AM pass. We have a liberal before breakfast pass, PM, bedtime. If something's given twice daily, we have a liberal AM and PM combined pass. So if something's given more than 3 times a day, it follows the standard rule. So TID, QID, those have a scheduled time, and they need to be given within 1 hour before or after that scheduled time. But for your once daily aspirin, that can be given between 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. without any kind of an alert popping up to say, this is late or it's too early to give. So, if you're interested in implementing something like this, this is another one of the handouts that we have for you. It's our liberalized MedPass policy and procedure. So if you're interested, sign up and we'll email it to you. You can review it with your medical director. You should also notify your physician group ahead of time if you're planning to make the switch so that they can be aware. And instead of writing their orders for 8 a.m., then they can just say in the morning. So on your MAR, it will just show up as a.m. instead of showing up as at 9 a.m. It'll just say a.m. Sorry, question?
So, in your MAR, you have to assign a time with that, even though it says AM, you have to assign a time. So if you assign that time, what kind of time did you assign to that AM? Did you assign 0700 or something like that with it?
I think that I put, I thought I had put some times on the slide, but our AM pass, even though it just shows AM on the MAR, behind the scenes, its window is 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. So if they give it any time between, and it still has, so if they give it any time between 7 and 11, they're not going to get an alert saying, this med is not
So
due.
is that a
or it's-
parameter now that allow you, is that the liberalized parameter that allows you to put 7 to 11?
It would be at the parameters below in your frequency time code master table. You go down and it defaults to 1 hour before or after.
Right.
But if you put in for 480 minutes or 180 minutes or something like that, then that will stifle that alert to pop up and say you're late.
So another thing we could include, if you're interested, is our MAR time codes, the master table of that, so you can see all of our time ranges for the liberal MedPass. We did have our state survey less than 1 week after going live with physician orders and our new liberal MedPass, and we had 0 deficiencies related to medication administration. So again, I've got a couple other things in the slide here. Exceptions to the rule or things that are given more frequently than three times a day or more. If you've got an antibiotic that needs to be given every 12 hours, we still have those time codes that you can put it in, so it's given 1 hour before or after your scheduled pain meds, insulin, that kind of thing. Just a note of caution too, I wrote up here before, with and after meals can be one of your liberal times, but unless it's very important to the absorption of the medication, we try to steer away from those just to prevent that temptation to pass medications in the dining room. Okay. Over to President. And then, sorry.
I'm sorry, I just have one question. We too use the liberalized MedPass. How, or if you have any ideas, how did you get your nurses to buy in? Because where we're struggling is that even though they can pass from 7 to 11, they get themselves into a routine and they're still waking them up.
That's a really good question. I'm glad you brought it up. And it's an ongoing thing to try to, get everyone involved. It's culture change, and that doesn't happen overnight or just because you've scheduled your medications in a larger window. So it does require just ongoing education and support of this process. You can incorporate some of those preferences into the resident care guide so that it's another reminder. If you know that resident doesn't like to be woken up before 9 a.m., putting that under the preferences section of the resident care guide. That way, if you've got a new nurse on the floor who's never worked with that individual, it will be another way to inform them of the resident's preference. So that does require, work on your part to make sure that you're asking the residents about their preferences and then communicating them to the staff. And the order standard is another really good way to help reinforce this. So if you have order standards that say, all of our once daily prescriptions are going to be part of the liberal AM pass, and say all of your over-the-counter meds are going to be part of your liberal PM pass, then you can check to make sure that those are still being followed, because there's a tendency to fall back into scheduling at a certain time instead of just saying 9 a.m. So running your new orders report is a good way to check those against your order standards to make sure that any new orders that were put in follow your standard. So next, the moment we've all been waiting for, go live. It's really not as scary as it sounds. Ours went by very smoothly. Of course, the whole team was there at 7 a.m. when we flipped it on, and there really weren't any issues. The most important thing is that you are there. So that kind of means being there for everyone, not just the AM shift. So I stayed into part of the PM shift, maybe 6 p.m., to make sure that everyone was able to log in and navigate okay, run the reports that they needed to run, go home, eat something, and then come back about an hour or two before the end of your PM shift to help the nurses run their missed meds and treatment report, and for your clinical module go live, running the ADL charting compliance review report so that they can hold the CNAs accountable for their charting that needs to be done before the end of their shift. And then stay for the first hour or two of your knock shift. Again, to make sure that everyone can log in without any problems and navigate and just be there in case anything does pop up. I think we did have one technical issue that occurred at the knock shift. But it was fortunate because I was there and I was able to kind of keep everybody calm and say no big deal. Heidi unfortunately had a lot more IT issues. Were you going to talk about that?
Well, a little bit.
Okay. So I'll hand it over to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we go to second. So let's move.
Yeah, so that lends to the issue that we were the first to go live on both counts. So we had some things that we needed to work out. And I think in retrospect, looking back, we were really fortunate actually. We got things worked out, right before our go live. But leading up to it, we had different team members in IT, and clinical is a very important part of the implementation, but so is IT, tremendously important. And you have two different skill sets that those departments are bringing to the table, and they're both key to a successful implementation. And so it's imperative, if you haven't yet gone live, that you open a dialogue. Those two departments must sit down and talk about their vision for a go live, for support during the go live, as well as support beyond the go live. Who is your knock shift going to call if they need a password reset at 2 a.m. In the morning? Who's your staff going to call if they have a question about where to chart something, or how to take off an order? I forgot how to run this report, or check this, that, or the other. To establish those parameters, and I can't stress enough how important that dialogue, that discussion, is to have between those two departments. Have a sit down and say, this is what I see, this is what I envision, this is what my expectations are in this go live, from our department, from your department, and vice versa, so that you can settle on a go-between. They're two completely different departments. Clinical thinks in one direction, IT, technology thinks in a different direction, and those really need to be to a certain extent on the same page for there to be success and support. You don't want any gaps. You want your staff members supported through the process. You want them to feel confident going through their implementation and well supported. So we established a 24/7 IT support line, which was new to us. We did not have that prior to AOD. So we're thankful to have that. It's proved very important to have that in place. We also took the clinical leads that were involved in the implementation and established a 24/7 sort of on-call rotation. So that if on the clinical side someone had a question, an important question that couldn't wait till the morning or whenever during business hours, they had someone to call, to ask a question, to get something resolved, and that worked out in our best interest as well. So anyway, Kathy, I'll turn it over to you.
So no matter how much training you do, you're always going to have to continue after you go live. People aren't going to remember everything at once. There's way too much to remember. So what we chose to do is to make some mini videos. I downloaded some software that would, when you do your computer, it takes a picture of your computer, so it's actually going through the steps. Got a microphone, so I'd sit on my computer and I would go through PR and effectiveness, how to do a care plan. So they're any way from 5 to 25-minute videos. And then that way they can be assigned by managers for people who are having trouble, or just, we're gonna probably do them on a yearly basis, break them up and do one a month to get people refreshers, especially with, it's a great way, I think, with the updates coming out, the 2016 updates, it's gonna be a great way to also be able to show those. So some of the examples we did are the care plan, creating a task, falls and workflow, the point of care touch charting for the CNA, the PRN effectiveness, skin condition entry, the do list. You can do anything that you need, but these were topics that we found that nurses and CNAs were being deficient in and that we wanted to improve some. So I did want to show you one. So we did a PowerPoint because some people need the paper, and then I hear you. Oh, sorry. So I did a PowerPoint, and then I also did a video. So this is the video. Sorry you can't hear, but as I'm talking, as I'm going through it, so that they can hear, and I go through all the different points of when you do PR and effectiveness, this is where you document, this is how you do it, so then they actually can see this. They don't see me, but they see the demo of it actually being done. And then there's also the PowerPoint presentation for those who like the visuals in it.
Modify, then you click in the comment box, not on the title, but in this pink part of the box. Select Med-Effectiveness number 3. And then over here, you're going to add a note. You're going to say what the results were. When it was pain levels down to 2 out of 10. Did they have a stool? Whatever the result was of the effectiveness of the medication. And then you say, okay. And therefore you go.
Yeah, it's great. This is roped in, so this is a great opportunity too.